everyone, I'm Ian McCarthy of Lifting for Life, and this evening I'm bringing you the 9th installment of the Lifting for Life Q&A series, in which I answer your questions on video in under 5 minutes. And this evening's question comes from another YouTube commenter with the name, I'm sure this is their legal name by the way, GSSG. And they say, I have a nutrition question for you, Ian. Would this scenario be just as effective as the usually recommended slow bulk in terms of muscle gain? Reaching a body fat level of around 17 to 20% fairly quickly, and then simply maintaining that body weight for a significant amount of time, while just focusing on progressing in the gym. I ask this because I've noticed that it's much easier to maintain a certain weight, compared with slowly increasing body weight on a weekly basis. Also, I know you wouldn't technically be gaining weight throughout the bulk, but wouldn't the fact that you're at this level of body fat ensure that you're consuming enough calories to sustain continual muscle growth? To the latter question, I think that's possible. I might even go as far as to say it's probable. And as a general comment, I want to note, I do think recomping, staying around the same body weight, gaining muscle, losing fat is a real phenomenon. I think it occurs more often than a lot of folks think, and to a degree which a lot of folks don't think it happens. Unsure of the grammar of that sentence, you guys can scrutinize it in the comments below. However, to the initial question of whether or not these two approaches are equivalent in terms of total muscle gained, I think that's unlikely. And I think that really comes down to the fact that the person who bulks more slowly will be in a surplus for a greater duration of time. Now, someone might say, well, what if the total surplus is exactly the same? This person just puts all of the surplus in a shorter period of time and then maintains. This person is in a smaller surplus for a longer period of time. And so wouldn't the muscle gain be the same? I think that could be the case if it were possible to simply force feed muscle growth. In other words, the more you eat, the more muscle you're able to synthesize. So if that means you synthesize a certain amount at 3,000 calories, well, if you eat 6,000, then you're definitely going to synthesize more, etc. But the reality is that in non-genetically elite natural bodybuilders past the beginner stage, your ability to synthesize additional muscle protein, so net muscle protein gain any one day, is extremely modest. And you max that out quite easily. You combine stimulus, adequate protein, modest energy surplus. And if you go beyond that, that additional surplus is simply going to be shunted over to body fat gain. So what the person who's very aggressive in gaining initially does is, I think this is the most likely outcome, is they will gain as much muscle as the person who slow bulks initially and tremendously more fat. Once they get to their maximum tolerable level of body fat and they shift to remaining at maintenance, the person who's slow bulking and who hasn't gained all of that extra fat and who is still in a surplus has the advantage because they are going to remain in a surplus longer. A better way of putting that would be to say they are going to maximize the muscle they're able to gain day by day over a long period of time for longer than the person who just gains all of that body fat initially. So I think the person who lean gains will ultimately gain more muscle, will sidestep a lot of body fat gain unless they desire it and they simply continue bulking until they've gained all that fat. And interestingly, I think they will probably end up eating more because the person who essentially binge eats initially, but then they have to maintain, will be maintaining for however long it might be, whereas the person who slow bulks will stay in a surplus and they will be slowly increasing their energy intake over time. So although I'm unsure of this, if I had to bet, I would bet the person who slow bulks at the end of this period, whether it be 6 months or a year or 2 years or 65, because you can bulk that long if you want. I think by the end of that period, that person will be leaner, will have gained more muscle, and will be eating more. So I think that's the most likely outcome. Thank you so much for the question. If you enjoyed the response, like the video, comment below, share it. Feel free to ask questions for future videos in the comments section below. I'm not sure what that was, but I can do what I want. We're over time now. I should go. We will talk tomorrow. Thanks.